Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Podcast. I'm Lauren LaSalle, and I'm a licensed therapist, highly sensitive person, and HSP coach. This bi-weekly podcast is meant for highly sensitive people and their loved ones, as both experiences will be discussed. Thank you for joining me, and let's begin. Hello, this is Lauren LaSalle, and today I wanted to talk about something that seems to come up a lot with HSPs, which is boundary setting. And that tends to be accompanied by feelings of guilt, anxiety, and the fear of disappointing others. As highly sensitive people, it is not uncommon to put other people's needs ahead of our own. We are often very aware of how others may feel, and we tend to people please so as not to make others feel badly or be disappointed in us, potentially trying to avoid making ourselves feel badly as well. Now, is this a realistic thought process when it comes to setting boundaries? It can be, especially if this has been your experience when setting boundaries in the past. However, not setting boundaries can also often result in us not feeling great because our needs are not being met. And people are often more receptive to boundaries being set than we anticipate they will be. Some signs that you may need to work on setting boundaries include feeling stressed out and or overwhelmed, wanting to avoid hurting others' feelings, feeling resentment towards others because of what they are asking of you, fearing that you will damage a relationship if you say no, putting others' needs before your own, wanting to avoid confrontation, and having difficulty saying no. As a teenager and young adult, I never wanted to disappoint anyone. I wanted to be there anytime someone needed me, and I feared how I'd feel and how they'd feel if I disappointed them or wasn't always accessible or available to them. The first step I took in breaking this thought and behavior pattern was acknowledging that other people's needs are important, but they are not more important than my own. And this shift in thinking has been a huge game changer for me. And being able to acknowledge and listen to my needs and set boundaries has made a huge difference in how I feel. If you are stuck in this pattern, I want you to know that your needs are important. You are allowed to put your needs first. It's not selfish, it's necessary for your health and happiness. One step that I take to ensure that I'm tending to my own needs regularly is when someone asks me for a favor, I can take up to a full day to respond with an answer. So this gives me space to take stock of the capacity I may or may not have to do this favor, process the feelings I have around it, and determine whether I actually want to do it or I just think I should do it. And if it helps, you can also make a list of pros and cons to help you determine what the right choice is for you. And while you are processing this decision, make sure you are listening to your gut and ask yourself what you gain by setting the boundary. Sometimes it can be more helpful to focus on why setting the boundary is a positive thing rather than focusing on how you anticipate the other person will feel or respond. And remember that you are not responsible for other people's feelings. Be aware of what your limits are and if you realistically are able to follow through with what someone is asking of you. For example, if you feel as though you have enough on your plate at work and know that you will feel stressed or overwhelmed if more is added, communicate this to your boss if they ask you to take on more. Know what your values are. So if family is very important to you, this will influence what boundaries you will want to set, such as how late you will stay at work. So once you have an understanding of your needs and what boundaries you'd like to set, you might be wondering, how do I communicate this? So here are some examples. So for example, if you are asked to take on more at work, you could say something like, I want to be able to do my best work, and I can't do that if I take on too much. Or this is not something I can take on right now. In situations where anything's asked of you, you could say something like, I need to check my schedule and I will get back to you. Or I'm feeling overwhelmed right now and would like to take a break and discuss this later. So saying something along these lines will allow you to have that time that you need to really process what choice is right for you? Do you want to say yes to what they're asking, or do you need to set a boundary and tell them, I'm sorry, I can't do this right now? So people aren't always receptive to boundary settings. So if you are getting pushback from trying to set a boundary, you could say something to them like, I'm putting my needs first, and this is what I have decided. So you're not backing down from that boundary. For example, if you receive unsolicited advice, you could say something like, I'm so grateful for your advice, but I'm going to try something else. If you've realized that your people pleasing tendencies are becoming detrimental to your health, I encourage you to try out the suggestions that I covered in this episode. These strategies have helped me reclaim my time, energy, and have opened up space for more self care. Plus, acknowledging and paying attention to my feelings and needs helps me live my life in a way that makes me feel much more balanced and happy. If you would like to share any tools or strategies that work for you, if you have any ideas for episode topics, if you have any questions for me to answer on the podcast, or if you would like to write an email sharing your story for me to read on the podcast, you can email me at lauren@laurenlasallecoaching.com. You can find out more about my coaching program, as well as resources and links to my social media by visiting my website at laurenlasallecoaching.com. Before I sign off, I will leave you with a quote. Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. Brené Brown.